Let me give you the American Political Action Committee for the Muslim political action. It is AMPAC, American Political Action Committee. They're planning a historic event for the anniversary of 9/11 on 9/11.
If this isn't a slap in the face to Americans, I don't know what is.
No,
it's not.
These are our good Muslim neighbors,
right?
Who are just like
making demands about not.
No, they're not making demands. They're making strong suggestions.
It says right here, we are demanding. It says right there.
I would like to be the typical member of the media and tell you that makes no difference what they said.
Okay.
I know their heart, and
see.
they're just making suggestions.
All right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They are demanding that their civil rights be protected by our government. Here is a million Muslim march on 9/11.
That's seriously all this government has done since 9/11. Is protect their civil rights.
Well,
that's all they've done.
Well, not really. The guy, the Fort Hood shooter, they won't allow him to plead guilty. They won't allow him to tell the truth about he's a jihadist.
No, because that was just a workplace violence incident.
Right. So they're not really protecting his civil rights to tell the truth. Here it is. We are demanding that laws be enacted protecting our First Amendment. Well, aren't you?
We already have that law.
Aren't you a million strong without being arrested on the mall on 9/11, slapping America across the face, saying now that you demand that you have First Amendment? You have the first. That's why you're there. We're asking President Obama to fulfill his promise from his first campaign for presidency of a transparent government. Yeah, we'll stand in line on that one. Lastly, we're asking for the release of the 9/11 Commission report to the American people. Again, stand in line on that one. And I'd like more than the 9/11 Commission report. I'd like all of the documents that were in Sandy Berger's underpants and socks, the ones that he destroyed. I'd like to know, because they have record of what was missing. I want to know exactly what was missing. What's missing? You have it. You know. What were they? On 9/11, our country was forever changed. This, again, coming from the American Political Action Committee that is putting on the Million Muslim March on 9/11 in Washington, D.C. On 9/11/01, our country was forever changed by the horrific events in New York. Our entire country was victimized by the acts done on that day. Muslim and non-Muslim alike were traumatized, but we as Muslims continued 12 years later to be victimized.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. No. It gets better.
Oh.
No, it gets better. How are they being victimized? By being portrayed as the villains of 9/11.
Oh, the horror of portrayal.
To this day, every media outlet and anti-Islamic organization has committed slanderous and liable statements against us as Muslims and our religion of Islam. I just want you to know, they're using slanderous and libels for a very clear reason. That's litigation. They are setting you up and telling you, we just a little bit more power, and we are going to sue you for saying that we had anything to do, that Muslims were at all involved in 9/11. Yet our government either sits idly by and does nothing to protect our freedoms, or it exacerbates the problem with its constant war on terrorism in Islamic countries. Well, you know what? Tell you what, the day that Finland starts blowing things up and killing people and beheading them,
we'll go to war with them too.
We'll go to war with them. Congressional hearings on Islam in America and changes to the NDAA laws. These lies, it doesn't say which lies. These lies are told to the American population, and it has made it impossible for us to do true dawah. Could you look up dawah? I can't remember dawah again. D-A-W-A. Probably the second definition. The first one might have something to do with Barbara Walters.
Think of that. Proselytizing or preaching of Islam.
Okay, so they can't tell us who the true Islam is because of the lies. Boy.
And the lies, again, were that the Muslims had anything to do with 9/11.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do we have to defend our religion while doing dawah? You know what? That is so true. I'm going to start suing people about everything they've ever said about my religion. Yeah. That is the good way. Yeah. I'm going to start suing all the United States government for all the bad things that have ever been said about my religion. I'm going to do that because all we're trying to do is missionary work. But all of these lies that have been spread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sue everybody, and I'm going to scare everybody, and I'm going to terrorize everyone with litigation or whatever it is to get them to shut up about my religion because I want to tell you about how peaceful and how loving we are. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Love always starts with litigation.
It sure does. Mm-hmm. I mean, why do I have to defend my religion? To be able to tell you how peaceful I am. Why can't we just share the perfection of the Quran? Because I don't want to. I don't believe the Quran.
Well, but they can share
They can.
it.
You
Absolutely.
can believe the Quran all you want. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of our beloved prophet Muhammad, because he's not my prophet. And I don't believe he was a prophet. But you can have at it.
And they are doing it.
And you are doing it. Yeah, look what you've done to Dearborn, Michigan. Look what you're doing to many cities in the United States.
This is like us going to a predominantly Islamic country and saying, hey, why don't you let us preach the Book of Mormon here and the perfection of it and tell you about our prophet Joseph Smith.
Why don't I tell you what?
In Saudi Arabia.
I tell you what. Why
can't we do that?
Why can't we go to Egypt and say, we'd like to tell you about the Savior of the world, Jesus Christ?
How would that be?
Would that be good? Or are you burning our churches down? Oh, yeah, that's right. You're burning down all of the churches.
No,
you're burning down all the Catholic churches, all the Christian churches, all the Protestant churches. You're beating and raping the nuns. That's right. Why can't all we're doing is dawah?
And Egypt isn't any more a specific Islamic country any more than the United States is a Christian nation. But that's the predominant religion in Egypt, as is Christianity here. And so this is just... it's a slap in the face.
Okay, so it is time for us as Muslims in America to stop being defensive and start being proactive by using our right to vote and our freedom to assemble and let our voices be heard by our country and the world will stand with us and help us fight. And the world will stand with us and help us fight the injustices being committed against us. Remember I told you this would happen. At some point, they will, inside the United States government or inside the United States of America, reach out to those in the rest of the world and say, we are being persecuted and we need the rest of the Islamic world to stand with us here until the persecution stops.
And what is the persecution? What is happening to American Muslims here
that
I'm not aware of?
They're being slandered and libeled.
Well, and they're not allowed to have large gatherings in Washington to talk about that.
They're actually having a large gathering to talk about
on 9/11.
But
not a total slap in the face.
Not in large
9/11.
numbers, like in a million.
It's called the Million Muslim March.
Help us wake up the American citizen to the truth, and together, Muslim and non-Muslim can take our country back to its true democracy, which is for the people, by the people. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's the Muslims that are going to do that. Our prophet, in his final message, told us whoever sees an injustice should set it right by means of his hand, if not by his tongue. If not, then by his heart, and that is considered to be the weakest of faith. So wait a minute. Whoever sees an injustice should set it right by means of his hand. If not, by his tongue. If not, then by his heart. And that is considered to be the weakest of faith. Whoa, is that the opposite of Christianity? Because when we say the heart is the strongest of faith, am I reading that right? That set it right by your hand. We would say set it right by your heart, and your hand would be the weakest of faith. Maybe I'm reading this upside down, because it certainly couldn't be the opposite of Christianity. And more to the point, if my nation are afraid... If my nation are afraid to say to the oppressor, "Oh, oppressor," then there is no hope in them. So our nation is the oppressor of Islam here in the United States of America. Sincerely, your brothers and sisters in Islam, on behalf of AMPAC, Isa Hodge, Chief Operations of the Million Muslim March. This should prove to be very interesting on 9/11. I doubt that anyone is going to cover that extensively. You can bet the Blaze will be. Could you write a note to our president of content?
Sure.
The Blaze needs to cover this extensively.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say they don't get 1 million people. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that doesn't happen.
Don't be surprised. Remember, you have people like Al Sharpton that will help them organize, and you will have Louis Farrakhan help them organize. I mean,
yep.
They could have a very large gathering there.
Even Louis Farrakhan, though, couldn't get 1 million people to the Million Man March, which is where all these events are named after.
No, I know that, but he can get 300,000.
Right. Well,
that's not 1 million.
Not 1 million.
I know that, but that's a huge number.
It is.
Now, the question is, the president is going to do an 828 speech. Did you hear this? He's going to
yes.
He's going to
on the steps.
He is going to mock the memory of
Martin Luther King.
Oh no, of us doing it. Because we did it on 828.
Yeah, but I think he's also mocking Martin Luther King because they said that about us, so I assume they say that about him.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they?
So he's going to do a political speech on 828 at the Lincoln Memorial this year. Mm-hmm. Now, the good news is we have photos of our crowd, and the really good news is we still have cameras. And so we're going to be taking the exact shots on the exact same day and see his crowd and A-B compare them.
Oh, please tell me you're going to take pictures after the crowd leaves as well.
And we are also going to take pictures after the crowd. And we're going to take pictures of all of the union signs and everything else on who's been bussed in where. Because I haven't heard anything about this. Have you?
No.
Have you seen anything about the president speaking on 828 at the Lincoln Memorial? So if this crowd comes, that's not a grassroots crowd because I haven't heard anything about it. Nothing. There's nothing in the news about him speaking on 828. So it's going to be really interesting to see an A-B compare. You want to talk about a set? That's a set. To go and recreate the Martin Luther King speech as the President of the United States on that anniversary.
Yes, and that's the 50th.
Quite a set.
So it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Really big.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people there, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people there just because they do want to commemorate with Martin Luther King. But it'll be interesting to see how big that crowd is. It'll be very interesting to see, and to see what he has to say. I wonder if he'll talk about how we have made such a great journey and how times have really, truly changed. And how that it is the content of character and not the color of skin. How you should judge someone on the content of character and judge them on what they do, not what they say. Because I'd love to have him on record saying that.